able to hear, and something happened and they couldn't hear anymore, they would be able to refer back to their previous experience, right, of that sense that they had lost, sight or hearing, in this case, sight. But how would you describe something or anything, a sunset, in the example, to someone who was born blind? He had no categories of being able to understand what it was to see. They say that, I don't remember, but they say that babies, when they're born, and they have to learn how to see, right? They don't even understand 3 dimensions when they're born. The first thing they see, they just see like shapes and colors, right? And that's why they say, sometimes even if an object is far away, they try to like grab it, even though it's like way far, like, oh, because they can't tell that it's like really far. They have to learn how to see. We all had to learn how to see. It was just so long ago that we don't remember. And that's what's so incredible about this, right, is that this man who was born blind is all of a sudden able to see, and not only see, but kind of understand, right? He wasn't like, I hope he wasn't doing, trying to learn 3 dimensions, right, in that moment. But he was not only given the gift of sight, but kind of the gift to be able to understand what he was seeing. And another experience, this one I do remember, after my candidacy, I remember I went home on my home visit after candidacy, and I called up one of my friends who wasn't Catholic. And I was so excited. I wanted to share all my experiences of candidacy. The summer, for those who don't know, right, maybe in the back, it's the summer before you enter the novitiate, right? 2 months we're here, and you're discerning whether or not to enter the Legion of Christ. And I was trying to explain to him, and I quickly realized, I just got to the point where I couldn't explain. Like, no words could describe the experience that I had, because it was so imbued with faith, and belief. And he didn't hold those same beliefs. And so no matter what, there was a wall there that I couldn't quite explain, right? It was like trying to explain to him, another sense. Like he was blind, and I was trying to explain to him something that I saw. Right? This is faith. Faith is that 6th sense, so to speak, right? That if someone doesn't have that faith to explain, that you'll always, and most of you have experienced that, right? Trying to explain the whole experience. Like you wish you could transplant, take your experiences and just put it inside other people's heads sometimes so they could experience, right? We've all had that experience where you're trying to, oh, it was so awesome, and you had to be there. You just had to be there. I can't describe it, right? And so Jesus gives this man not only sight, but then the ability to see, and then even more, as we will see later. But I think this is maybe the first lesson of the gospel of today, is that faith is a gift, right? This man did nothing to deserve this gift of sight, and yet he received it. We did not deserve the gift of faith. And yet we have received it. And we see life, we see reality in a different way. What a gift, right? Called, certainly, to go and share this gift and try to help others to receive this gift, right? But that's the first lesson. The first principle is that it's a gift of God that we don't deserve, right? But then we have the second lesson, and this is kind of weaved throughout the rest of the gospel here. And I mentioned it a little bit at the beginning of Mass. And this is the different reaction of the Pharisees, right? The Pharisees, how often do we see that, right? Pharisees versus, the way you should do things, right? Pharisees versus the blind man. And it's even more striking because the Pharisees, being so intelligent, right? They knew scriptures backwards and forwards. And you have this humble blind man who was never able even to read anything, right? Because he couldn't see. And so you have the Pharisees who start off, and it's interesting because they are confident that they know who Jesus is. They're so confident, right? They start off here. Some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God because he does not keep the Sabbath. How can a sinful man do such signs?" Right? Jesus is a sinful man. He's not from God. Clear as day, confident. Right? That's the Pharisees. But there's still a little bit of openness to this idea of, well, maybe it was true, maybe he did. Right? So they're trying to figure out how this man was healed. Right? There was a division among them, it says. So some thought, well, maybe. Unfortunately, the voices against Jesus prevail, right? And we see this again. They say a second time, "Give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner." Right? They're doubling down on their confident affirmation of who Jesus is. They're so confident that they know him, and they do not, right? They are persisting in their own blindness, going even deeper into it. And then at last, a third time, we know that God spoke to Moses, right? We know about Moses. We know about the scriptures. But this man, we do not know where he is from, right? And if he were of God, he would come from Moses, or I don't know how they would figure that one out, right? But they're so confident that they know who Jesus is. They're so confident in their error. And that's the problem. What is the opposite, right? The blind man, what is he? How does he react? And he's a much greater theologian than the Pharisees are, right? The blind man says over and over again, right? When they're asking him, what happened, right? How were your eyes opened? He replied, "The man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and told me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' So I went there and washed and was able to see. And they said to him, 'Where is he?' He said, 'I don't know.'" So we get this first hint of the right way to do things, right? I don't know, right? The Pharisees, I don't think there are any lines in the gospel where the Pharisees say, I don't know, right? They're always confident in their error, right? Yes, this is the way things are, and they're totally wrong. They're confident about it, at least. Then the second occurrence here, right after the Pharisees, "We know that this man is a sinner." What does the blind man reply? "If he is a sinner, I do not know." He doesn't know, right? "One thing I do know is that I was blind, and now I see." So simple. He knows what he knows, right? And he knows what he doesn't know. And then third, he meets Jesus, right? So he's thrown out after this questioning by the Pharisees. And Jesus heard that he had been thrown out. And Jesus found him, which is also interesting, right? So it's not this man did not go out to find Jesus, but Jesus found him. So Jesus came to him and said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered and said, "Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" Right? Who is he? I don't know him, right? And then so simply and quickly, Jesus said to him, "You have seen him, and the one speaking with you is he." He said, "I do believe, Lord." And he worshiped him. So you have these two huge jumps in this man's life in such a short period of time, right? Not being able to see, to all of a sudden being able to see and to understand what he's seeing. And then all of a sudden, this man who he doesn't really know who he is, all of a sudden now he believes and he worships him. What a conversion story. One of the most powerful conversion stories in all of history, perhaps, but certainly in the Gospels, right? And what is the key here? And I think this is maybe the key for the gospel, the key for this, maybe the rest of our living of this Lent, is that we often think, I do at least, that I know how God works. I'm so confident that this is the way God is supposed to do things. If God is real, in this situation, this is what is supposed to happen, right? I'm so confident that that's the way things should be. And yet, how often I am so wrong, right? Over and over again, Jesus in the gospel is showing us who God truly is and how he truly acts. And he often acts outside of the way I think he should, right? And the blind man is able to see this and to believe because he's humble. He recognizes that there's something I don't know about God. God can do things better than I can imagine. He can do things outside of the way I think things should be. So there's always that element of, Lord, I don't know. I trust you, I believe, but I don't know. I'm not sure. And I recognize that with great humility. And so the humble man is able to see the Lord, whereas the Pharisees, who are confident in their pride, are not able to see. And so for this Lent, let us be encouraged, right, by Jesus. Let us be humble so that we can see him, accepting his gift of faith, so that we too, like the blind man, may say, I do believe, Lord.